Hi everybody, I'm here with my man and mentor and good friend Chrisducker of Youpreneur. And Chris and I are here at the Social Media Marketing World Conference in 2020 in San Diego, and we are in a public area, so there's a little bit of background noise and people walking around, so forgive us for that. But I wanted to invite him on my new podcast, Brand Design Masters Podcast, and this also go out to my YouTube channel. But Chris is
I love that you're doing this. I instantly go into mentor mode. I love that you're doing this with video and the audio thing and everything. It's so good. Sorry, carry on.
That's all right.
Talk about how great I am for a minute.
I will. When I came out of 20 years of corporate, big agency, big corporate world, I was a deer in the headlights, and I just happened upon Chris and his community right when he was launching it. And he was very much the answer to my prayers. And it's what I was experiencing at the time was the major topic of what I want to talk about today, which is you don't know what you don't know. And you know, I had a lot of experience in marketing and branding and design, but when I came out into the world of entrepreneurship, I didn't know anything. And Chris knew everything. And he was welcomed me into the fold and has been very, very influential in my growth and countless other people's growth as entrepreneurs. So I wanted to bring him back on the show. He's been on my brand Muse interview series on YouTube, and he's going to be featured on the podcast, but this is actually going to be your second appearance on my podcast. You don't even know that because I'm repurposing my content like you taught me how to do.
That's good. It's good to know.
So anyway, welcome Chrisducker.
It's good to be here.
I kind of hipped you to the fact that I wanted to talk about something that I saw in one of your YouTube videos. You were going about your day, and it was you were traveling and you were shooting as you were going, and you recorded a little segment in the office of your accountant, and you were talking about how you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the greatest quote, because so many of us may be accomplished in our careers in one level or another, one area or another, but when we move into entrepreneurship or start to try to establish personal brand presences for ourselves, we suddenly realize there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and we may not know what we don't know, right? So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I think the big thing is just it comes down to just being self-aware, right? In terms of who you are, where you've been, what you've done, what you know, who you want to serve, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, at that particular time, I remember shooting that video actually, I had about a 10-minute break in between two meetings, and I'd been totally schooled in the first meeting. I knew the second meeting was going to be an easier meeting, but I got totally taken back to high school by my accountant, my financial advisor at the time.
Your math teacher.
Yeah, who was basically saying like you're doing a lot of things right, but you're also doing this, and this really, really wrong. And not only can we save money by making some very small changes, but we can actually probably maximize a lot of what you're doing from an investment perspective just by making like a handful of very small tweaks. And so that was when I recorded that video, and I said, oh my God, I really don't know what I don't know. Like, you can build businesses, you can build a brand, you can make millions, you can affect tens of thousands of people, et cetera, but you don't know what you don't know. Right? Like, Kobe Bryant was one of the greatest basketball players of all time, period. And I'm a Celtics fan, and I'm saying that anyway, right? But I guarantee you, there was a whole bunch of subjects that he had no idea about. And being a smart dude, I'd like to think that he would hunt those people down who did know about those things in order to learn from them and do likewise, right? So I just think that, great leaders should continue to learn in order to continue to lead. And you should never be so egotistical to think that you know everything, because we don't.
So how do you recognize when you don't know what you don't know?
Oh, you know. Don't allow the BS indicator inside of your brain to be drowned out by your own egotistical comments, right? Like, when you're struggling with something, you're struggling, right? Now, it's tough for entrepreneurs a lot of the time because we're type A individuals. We like to think that we know everything about everything and that we don't need any help and we've got it. It's, not a problem. We've got it. But the fact of the matter is, that's not true. And there are a ton of people out there that can do a lot of things that we probably struggle with way, way, way better than us. The difference between the really successful, smart, savvy entrepreneurs and those that maybe don't do so well is that those smarter entrepreneurs are finding people to help them.
And you have mentored and tutored a lot of entrepreneurs and personal brand people. In general, are there certain areas where you find that people, the majority of people have to start learning things they don't know? Are there certain categories of knowledge that are the areas that people generally reach out to first to learn more?
There's a couple of things. So the first thing, and it's funny how one follows over after another. So the first thing is definitely productivity. I think productivity for me is one of those things I get asked about a lot in terms of like, how do I get the most out of my day? How do I structure my day? How do I go about, figuring out what priorities to chase down every day, et cetera, et cetera. And then, funnily enough, how do I get help to do all that as well? So certainly the delegation side of things, I think productivity and delegation come hand in hand anyway. But again, going back to that type A entrepreneurial mindset of I can do it quicker myself, or I'm still bootstrapping and I haven't got the money to pay people, I'll do it myself. Like I often say, and I know you love this quote being a designer, I say that unless you're a graphic designer, you have no right as an entrepreneur being stuck inside a Photoshop trying to design a logo, right? Or a flyer, or a business card, or a website, or anything else for that matter. Unless you're a designer, you shouldn't do that. You should get someone else to do it because you're going to do a bad job anyway, and you're going to waste time, and time is our most valuable commodity, right? So I honestly feel like they're the two big things: productivity, getting the most out of the day, and delegation. And that really leads on to everything else that entrepreneurs have to struggle with, like avoiding burnout or maybe recovering from burnout. Particularly personal brand entrepreneurs, which are the bulk of the people that I work with today, when they're building a personal brand based around their experience, their expertise, their personality, etc. They kind of feel like they have to be front and center all the time. That's not true. You build a business based on you and around you, but not reliant on you. And that's the big thing right there.
Yeah. I did a survey on my email list, and at your suggestion actually, and this was a while back before I did a very deep survey of them. And I asked one question: what are you struggling with the most? And I got, 350 responses.
That's the goal.
I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, that's the golden question right there.
And the thing that blew me away was I was expecting, I need to learn more, design applications or get better at my design skills, or I need to find more clients, right?
Right.
The number one answer was time management and productivity. I couldn't believe it. I was amazed. And so it is. I think that's because we're so time starved and we have so many things competing for our attention, we are being pulled in so many directions. And then you layer on top of that personal branding or entrepreneurship, and it just gets crazy complex, right?
Time is everything. Everybody feels like they don't have enough time. Everybody feels like they want more time. And that's what I've been saying for years. My first book, Virtual Freedom, came out in 2014. It's in the tagline, how to buy more time, become more productive. They go hand in hand, and build your dream business. Right. You can buy time. It's called delegation. It's called hiring people, right?
Yep.
But a lot of people don't feel like that's the answer. They feel like the answer is, I need to do it all myself. I just got one more thing to do, or I'll just work one more hour, or I'll just work one more weekend. And what happens? It's inevitable. You'll burn out.
So one of the things that people struggle with is that when they feel like they might not be generating as much revenue as they need in order to hire a virtual assistant or in order to hire that help, what do you tell people like that in terms of, when they feel like they have to burn the candle at both ends in order to get the revenue coming in to support that thing? What is the turning point of the decision mechanism that pushes you towards making the investment?
Well, I think you have to understand that, in order to have things that you've never had before, you've got to do things that you've never done before, right? So if you want more revenue, if you want more time, if you want more impact, then you've got to do things that will directly attribute to you achieving those things, like hiring the right people, maybe possibly even firing certain people if you've already got a team in place and things aren't working out. Maybe it's just actually just hiring a coach for a couple months to kind of help you figure out how to get over a couple things that you've been struggling with. It doesn't matter. Like, it really does come down, like, if you want things you've never had, you've got to do things you've never done. It's that simple. And so I think it's a genuine mindset shift. And this is one of the reasons why people struggle with it. Here's the other thing about entrepreneurs. We don't want to admit when we're wrong.
Very true.
We don't want to admit when we're wrong. And I've been horrifically bad at this in my career.
Really?
Oh yeah, terribly bad.
Why do you think?
Now, I haven't for the last 7 or 8 years or so. I think I've grown more in the last 7 or 8 years as an entrepreneur than I have done in the 16 years complete that I've been an entrepreneur.
Do you think your success has added to your humility? Sometimes it's the opposite.
No, I don't think so, actually. I think, honestly, I've just gotten over myself. I've just literally gotten over myself. Because here's the thing, and maybe I'm a little blessed. I've got a great wife who's also a business partner, and she's there and she helps me from an operational perspective. I'm the sales and marketing guy. She's the operations gal, and we don't step on each other's toes. It is what it is, right? But when your business partner says to you, you know what, Chris, that was a really bad move. I don't think we should have done that. I don't think we should do that again. You might second guess it. But when your wife says it to you, and you want a quiet life, you suck it up and you're like, yeah, honey, I know it was kind of crappy, whatever it is, right? So I think, honestly, genuinely, I've just gotten over myself. Yeah.
So we're here at Social Media Marketing World, which is all about content, doing content for clients or content for yourself and putting that out into the world to get traction. You have been, amazing at your content development, your podcast, your community, teaching other people how to do it. You have recently put a tremendous amount of effort and, focus onto video and YouTube now.
Yes.
And you hadn't previously.
I know nothing about
dabbled in it, right?
Yeah.
And so, but now you're really putting your back into it. Talk about that decision and how you're going about that.
Yeah. So really, I think the term dumping grounds is perfect for the way that I've looked at YouTube over the last decade, literally. There has been spurts over that time where I've got more serious about it, right? Where we've said, oh, we're going to launch a new video every week. And genuinely, there has been times where we've done a video every week for like 3-4 months and we do nothing for like a year and a half after. Or maybe we'll slam a sales video up there and only because we want to embed it on our website or whatever, right? So it's been a dumping ground. There's no other term to use to describe it. However, you know what? Video is going to be the #1 form of content served up by the end of 2022. 87% of all search results are going to be directed towards video on Google. Obviously, YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. It's the second most visited website on the planet. And the chances are, regardless of what industry you're in, who you're serving, what product or service or experience you're marketing, with something like 3 billion people looking at YouTube every month or whatever the ridiculous statistic is, chances are your customers are there. They're hanging out, right? So I think that in order to capitalize on video, and specifically YouTube as a platform, you've got to get serious about it. And the fact of the matter is, I know nothing about it, and I have gotten over myself, and therefore I hire people who do know what they're doing about on YouTube, or I speak to people who do understand what it's like to grow a YouTube channel from scratch. Sean Kennel from Think Media has become a good friend, and incredible YouTube marketer. His channel just hit 1 million subscribers, so clearly he knows what he's doing. And teaming up with companies like TubeBuddy, who are working with us with a lot of research that we're doing, and understanding the importance of evergreen content as well as more trending, more relevant, time-sensitive content. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yes.
It really is, because I clearly have no problems like talking or being in front of a camera, but you've got to be, I think You've got to go. You're so good on YouTube, and I've watched your videos. I'm like, you're so concise, and I don't know how much editing goes into it, but you're just a little bit, just a little bit. But you're so concise, and you're the points that you get across on video, like that's what the hook, you know, all that sort of stuff is just totally foreign to me. I've seen it, I know it works, I know how people do it, but I've never really done it before. And now I'm totally immersed in this world, and at the age of 46, I'm learning something new every day on it. Hence the fact, if you don't know what you don't know, you find people that do know
exactly
what you don't know.
And you admit that you don't know it.
Yep.
That's the thing.
Yep. That's it.
I mean, the one thing about, and we've heard about it here at the conference, is that because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, I cannot stress enough how important that is in terms of your showing up in organic search.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a perfect example. I did a video on what does a creative director actually do? That's what it's called. Over a period of a couple of years, it got about 100,000 views. I decided to do a search for the word creative director on Google. And the first video that comes up is my video. This is the crazy thing though. When you search for creative director and then do Google image search, for a period of time, I think it's down the list now, but the thumbnail for that video showed up as the #1 result for image of creative directors. And then there were like 80 black and white, very pompous pictures of really, really famous creative directors.
And there's you going.
And there was me going.
On your thumbnail.
Yeah, on my thumbnail doing some like totally cheesy pose, right? But that shows the power of how those two platforms are so deeply integrated, and they can really force you up in the hierarchy of search.
Let me ask you this. I'm curious to know. Let me switch, just switch it on you a little bit.
Yeah, do it up.
The thumbnails. Because my daughter is helping me run my YouTube channel. She's a millennial, so she gets it much faster than me. My brain is a little slower to kind of engage compared to hers. She says, Dad, we need a pose fest. That's what she calls it. Okay. So then that means I've got to do all these weird poses in front, like a white wall, so it's easy to cut me out. And all the rest of it. I find it so incredibly uncomfortable to sort of go.
It is so uncomfortable.
And it's just like so great. Now you do it right though, because you're wearing black all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't do that.
Right.
So now I'm sort of having to understand, the difference of like different shirts or outfits or ties I wear or something like that. It's a pain in the butt.
I got a funny story though. When I first started doing YouTube and I realized I had to do a little pose fest for myself.
There you go.
I put up a black screen in my basement with photo lights, and I was down there by myself with my camera, with my remote, taking cheesy pointing pictures of myself, right?
Yes.
And then cutting them all out and photoshopping them up. So I had an archive of 20 or 30 poses that I could use to plug into my thumbnails. But here's the thing. You have to pay attention to the platform that you're on and speak in the language of the platform that you're on. Mm-hmm. And YouTube has gotten incredibly garish in how YouTube thumbnails are being handled now. They have gotten less and less tasteful over time, I'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. And to a certain extent, we know that when you're looking for videos, you're scrolling by on a phone and the thumbnail is a 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch, and you've got to pop. Your title's got to pop.
Yep.
And you have to speak in the language of the platform that you're on. But
it's
painful.
Totally. Yeah.
Especially for people who wear ties and vests and
and I
have a hard time pointing.
I think that there's something to be learnt there though, because I won't lower my standards. I'm not going to start doing things, for example, with a thumbnail image, just to get someone to stop scrolling and click on it, because the chances are, if I did something that was not me,
it's out of brand.
It's off-brand. It's going to be the wrong people that click on it anyway. It's kind of pointless.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's very true.
Yeah.
And while I adopted the pose, I have always stayed as tasteful as I possibly can be with a thumbnail, and absolutely consistent.
Yes. I have a go-to thumbnail. Like, okay, Dad, go. This is my go-to.
See, you can't see the face, but you can see it on video.
That's my go-to. And then every now and then
it's smiling, thinking, pointing.
What are you going to do?
We're here at Social Media Marketing World. Let's talk about trends. And you are hooked into so many entrepreneurs. You know what people are struggling with. You know what people are experimenting with. We've heard a lot about TikTok. We don't have to talk about it, but there are always.
Please don't.
I know. I don't want to talk about it either. I'm sorry
I
brought
know
it up.
nothing about this platform at all, except for the fact that my daughter loves it. That's all I know. Yeah.
Are you sensing anything trending in terms of what entrepreneurs and personal brands are doing to improve their businesses?
Particularly personal brand entrepreneurs, Instagram is huge right now. It has been for a while. It's definitely been my number one platform of choice when it comes to engaging with my audience. There's something about the ease of the use of both publishing as well as consuming on Instagram that I really like. Obviously, you've got stories. Now, here's the thing. I think just like with any other platform, you've got to go into it with a little bit of strategy, but still be quite relatively loose, right? With the way that you're executing that strategy. For example, on my grid, on the profile on Instagram, I want to tell stories, and I want to drop value bombs, and I want to kind of get people thinking about what it is that they're doing. And we use relatively nice photography and things like that, right? So we want to we're very, when I say we, I mean the team, we really curate what goes up on the grid. With stories, however, I don't want it to be polished. I don't want it to be super sexy and slick. I want it to be raw and uncut and like really behind the scenes kind of feeling, right? And people know. I've had people come up to me and say, like, I follow you on Instagram. I know that you don't know who I am because I never comment on your posts and stuff, but I'm consuming all your stories, and I love the fact that you show us the behind, like opening up the book. Opening up boxes with your book for the first time, or showing yourself, walking through the lobby of like the YouTube London offices on the way to a meeting, and all this sort of stuff, right? So that's what you get on my stories, but you wouldn't see that on the grid. Right. So I think it's about utilizing the platforms in the different ways based on the tools and the strategies that are available to us to really connect with people. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, based on the craze of TikTok right now, my prediction, and it's probably already in, I don't have an in, by the way, there's no kind of like behind the scenes tour of Instagram for Chris or anything like that, but I believe the next thing we're going to see on Instagram is a TikTok-esque editor via Instagram stories. Because if you think about it, Zuckerberg has been very, very, very vocal about the fact that if I can't acquire, I'm just going to build. And he tried to buy Snapchat 3 times.
Right.
Why? Because of the story element of Snapchat.
Right.
They didn't sell, so he went ahead and just did it. And a lot better, too.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's going to be the next thing where we can stop, start, individual little clips all on one clip. And that kind of live editing thing. And knowing Facebook and Instagram the way that we do it, it'll probably be really, really well done.
Yeah, they've got the bucks to make it happen.
Sure do. Yeah.
What would you say are, Gary Vee has this great quote that says, every company is 80% a product and service company and 20% a media company, or it has to be a media company. I talk a lot about the creative economy and how creative professionals, designers, branding people are perfectly positioned to provide that media, that 20% of media that every company now needs. But entrepreneurs and individual personal brands also need to be their own 20% media company. Yep. How do you either encourage or teach or advocate for that in the people who are part of the Youpreneur community?
You lead by example.
Okay.
That's what you have to do. I think that, I've been talking about it for years now. My very good friend Jade Bear from Convince and Convert many, many years ago. He's been on my podcast probably more times than anybody else, I think. One of the smartest minds in our game, without a doubt. And he said one time, just dropped it in the middle of a conversation about something completely different. He said to me that every personal brand entrepreneur must adopt a media company mindset or get left behind. And those words have never, here I am quoting him again for the umpteenth time on that very, very important piece of advice, because he's 100% right. We have all the tools we need at our fingertips, literally, or our thumb tips most of the time now, to be able to build a powerful, profitable, future-proof business based around our personal brand. More fool us if we're not utilizing them.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's incredibly important to look. And by the way, look at what other people are doing. Get inspiration from other people's strategies and the way that they're executing on those strategies, but don't copy anyone. Come at it with your own angle. Come at it with your originality attached to it. If you're a loud, relatively obnoxious person, then be loud and obnoxious,
right.
and you will attract the right people into your ecosystem. If you're a little bit more meek and mild, and you're quite kind of, calculated in the words that you say and how you say them, do that, and you'll attract the right type of people again into your ecosystem. Don't do something just because Gary Vaynerchuk does it, or Jasmine Star does it, or Philip VanDusen does it. Like, don't do it just because you follow that person, you like that person, and you think that looks cool. Do you? Make your own playbook and run the plays.
And I think that feeds right into what I heard on one of your recent videos, was about how you need to let people behind that curtain talk. It feeds into what you just said about Instagram, where we have to let people see the true, authentic us. We have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
We have to be transparent.
Yeah.
Because your favorite P2P, right? People do business with people.
Yep.
And they want to do business with people. And that, I think, for most people, is the hardest thing to do, is to let people see behind the scenes in their lives, in their businesses.
Right.
Because it is so exposing. It's scary.
But here's the thing, man. You don't need to do anything you don't want to do. You can do a certain amount. You can take it to a certain level. If you're happy showing, yourself sitting down in your living room on your sofa and talking about things and stroking your dog at the same time, do that. That doesn't mean that you need to show the outside of your house, for example, right? Like, you've got to be smart with it. Don't get out of your comfort zone. Yes, there's definitely something to be said for that. And the most successful people on the planet are those that do that regularly. But that doesn't mean that you've got to give away the entire farm.
Right.
Right? Give a cow away, or a sheep, but not the whole farm. You understand what I'm saying? Like, just be comfortable with what you're doing.
And that's what makes celebrities crazy, because their entire lives are under a microscope.
I get it.
That makes
I get
anybody
it.
crazy.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So you wrote a book about a year and a half ago now,
Yeah.
I guess, Rise of the Youpreneur, which
Yep.
I highly recommend anyone getting who hasn't read it.
It's a good book.
It is a good book.
True story. Sorry to interrupt. True story. I'm in the middle of recording the audio version. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Well, no. I mean, I've done it now, but this is ages ago. So I'm in the middle of recording this audio book. I'm in the booth. I've got the sound engineer through the little window. I've got the headset on, and I'm reading through. And we've got 2 sessions of 5 hours booked, right, on 2 different days. And I'm in the middle of the first session, literally about a couple hours in. And as I'm reading through, Colin, the sound engineer, I'll never forget the guy's name, he puts his hand up as if to say, it's time to take a break. I got to the end of the chapter. Time to take a break now, Chris. I actually thought to myself internally as I'm reading my book, this is a really good book.
It is a really good book.
No, because this is what it is. And anybody that's written a book will get this, they'll understand it. You write the book and then it goes into edit. And then you kind of approve the book, and then it gets published, and then you're marketing the book. The chances are, by the time the book comes out, you haven't actually read your book for about 6 to 8, maybe 9 months,
Yes.
right? So here I am now, a few months after it comes out. It's been about a year since I've read it through, and I'm reading it. I'm literally audible, reading it. It's a really good book. It is a good book.
It's a great book, and I know exactly what you mean. When I do a video, sometimes I will get, I answer every comment I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And so I will get a comment, and it had to do actually with that creative director. No, it had to do with like how to ace a designer interview.
Right.
And I received a lot of views, and people were commenting on it, and I was going back and I was like, you know what? I don't even know what I said in this video.
Yeah.
So I went back and watched it, and I was like, this is a really good video.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of value bombs in this.
Here's the thing. If you don't tell yourself how great you are from time to time,
that's true.
Nobody else is. Here's the thing. If we don't tell ourselves how great we are from time to time, no one else is ever going to do it.
And that is a word to the wise. And to people who are struggling, do the Stuart Smalley. Sit there, look in the mirror and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And take a moment and appreciate what you've been doing and the work you've been putting into it and the value you've been putting out into the world, whether that's just putting your portfolio up online or sharing inspirational quotes or whatever that is. And revel in the fact that you're creating and adding value to the world.
Because it doesn't matter what we're doing or who we're doing it for, the world needs it. The world, particularly if you're a very positive person and believes in, that people at the very core are good people and they want to do good things for other people around them. You have to put that out into the world because it can sometimes be a little bit of a messed up place. Let's put it like that.
Well, and here at Social Media Marketing World, you can also, there's a lot of rah-rah about social media, but then a lot of people do heap a lot of the pains and tragedy of the world onto social media as distancing ourselves from each other, and we're staring at our phones too much and all that sort of stuff. But we do have to pay attention to how much it does bring us together and give us communication avenues that we've never had before to find people and influence people that we never would have come in contact with in our lives. I can't tell you how many comments I get from people in India, Pakistan, who see my work and they say, this has just helped me so much, and please do your videos in Hindi,
right.
And it's so motivating.
Totally.
I bet that drives you forward every day.
Like you wouldn't believe, I got off stage here the other day, and within 2 hours of being off stage, I got a direct message via, I think it was Facebook or Instagram, one of the platforms, and the lady said, I've taken action already based on something you said in your session, and you've made me $3,700 within 2 hours of me getting off the stage.
That is awesome.
I was like, way to take action.
Yes,
good job.
Absolutely.
Where's my cut?
Yeah, and you're like, testimonial time, quote unquote.
Right.
Can I get a thumbnail of your face, please?
it genuinely really does, honestly. It's motivating. Yeah, it's motivating.
Yeah. So, Chris, I know you don't even need to announce this, but where can people find you?
Chrisducker.com, and the most important thing in 2020, my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and just type in the words Chris Ducker. Ducker with a D.
Do it. He has incredible YouTube content.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks for talking to me, Chris.
Appreciate it.